I've just learned that communication is so essential, and it's key to any relationship.
You're going to do some great things for you and your family because the only thing that's been modeled for you are great things for the family.
And so that has been something that has really kind of emboldened the way I talk about the business that we do. And when I'm
That's
sitting in
strong,
front of a
bro.
client,
That's incredibly strong.
Thank you for joining us on our Family First Life Tri-State Serve the People podcast. We appreciate you tuning in, spending your time to develop and grow with us. Follow us, please, on all our social media platforms at Family First Life Tri-State or FFL Tri-State. We love you. Keep listening, and I hope this information is serving you across the country.
All right, everybody. Thank you for joining us on our Tri-State Your Story podcast. I got my man Brad Plummer with me. Definitely wanted to get him on this podcast because he has a very intriguing story. But Brad's been with us not too long, but he's making amazing strides at FFL, and I got a glimpse of his story in my last two encounters with him. So I wanted to introduce Brad to the world. Brad, part of FFL Citadel, an elite producer doing great things at FFL for his family. And it's an honor to have you on, my man. How are you doing?
wonderful, Mark, man. It's a privilege to just be here and do what I do every day and be able to talk to you, man.
Absolutely, man. Well, these podcasts I enjoy quite a bit. You have the idea here that because we're in a short window and you are, kind of instructed to help us know who you are, I might learn more about you, Brad, now than if we spent 4 hours eating dinner. So I get excited with these podcasts because I usually get, learn a lot about people and actually get good insight on why people are cut the way they're cut. So welcome to Your Story podcast. And if you could kind of take some time here to kind of walk us down a path and some of the things that made you the man you are today, that'd be amazing. Thank you, sir.
Yeah, sure, absolutely. Thanks, Mark. Yeah, so I'm 30 years old, and I grew up in a home with a mom and a dad. A pretty simple life, right? I have two younger siblings, younger sister, younger brother. So I was the oldest, and it's funny because I always joke around that I got in trouble the most. Uh,
You were the
the
oldest,
first, I'm the oldest, yeah.
and you got in the old. Okay, that's usually the opposite.
Well, so I love to joke around because it's it was I was the test run, right? So you got to make sure you do everything right as a parent. So you get the short end of the leash there, and then my sister's the middle child, right? So I joke around that she's the favorite, and then my brother runs the rest of the household, right? He's the youngest, so um, but no, it's good. I think when I look back at my childhood, we were raised in a Christian home with some very basic biblical principles.
Praise God.
Other than the fact that our salvation comes first and foremost in Jesus Christ, there's just some basic moral and things that align with just respect in life. And so my dad really attributed to my growing up to that you are raised to respect your elders, you're raised to respect those in authority, and you're to carry yourself in a way that people will respect you. And I think it rings true as you kind of develop and mold your character as you grow up. And what's interesting is, as I was growing up, we kind of bounced around to different churches, trying to find a home church that really worked for us. And some people would say that if you're not planted somewhere, then you'd be kind of all over the place. And so you want to find somewhere to be planted. What's interesting for me, it kind of became this thing where I've learned what kind of jumping around looks like as I grew up in the church world, moving from different churches. You experienced different people, different ways of doing things, and it kind of formed this character where I can relate to people from all walks of life. And that's been a very sensitive thing to me, where I just want to be somebody that can advocate for someone else.
Wow.
And so it's been a kind of a beautiful thing as I've grown up, and somebody that has still is still in my life today. Praise God, is my grandma, my mom's mom. She's going to be 93 in October, and
Wow.
she and my yeah. So she's seen a lot, and
To say the
what's
least.
interesting is where I'm at today in FFL. My grandma owned an insurance agency, her and my pop-up for decades.
Really?
They did a whole bunch of different type of insurance, you know, P&C, life, auto, homeowners, everything. And what's interesting is she ended up selling her agency in the 90s after my pop-up had passed away, and sold it for a pretty penny, we'll say, right? And
Yeah.
but their bread and butter was life. And it's interesting
Life
that this it's kind
insurance.
of that's it, man. And it's
Wow, dude.
interesting how it's I've never really given it that much thought until most recent years where I started pursuing this. And my grandma has just been this staple in pushing me and encouraging me. And she says, "Man, every time you speak, Bradley," and she's got to use Bradley because that's my full name. Only my mom and my grandma get to call me. Otherwise, I go by Brad. And you know, she's just like, you just have a way of speaking and carrying yourself. And it's just, man, to hear her talk about me as if she was talking about her husband, my grandfather.
Hmm.
um it's truly moving because she just sees a lot of him in me. And
Wow.
I really take pride in that, and so that's
That's
kind of
awesome.
stuck with me, throughout this time. And um, so kind of fast forward. I didn't end up really going to college. I always joke around. I got married instead. uh, so
I've never heard anyone, even married young, say that. How long you been married?
I just had my 10-year anniversary, July
Wow.
21st.
Yo,
Yeah, yeah.
you
So
are
I got
so
married in
young.
2012, and
Wow.
I was 20 years old. Yep. And
Jeez.
I started at a county college. I actually went to school originally for film, uh, and I didn't end up kind of finishing because, like I said, I got married. And it was the love of my life, and my wife has been somebody that has pushed me beyond my limits every step of the way in our marriage. One, to make me a better man, and two, to make sure that I'm always the one providing for the family. And so she is she's a firecracker. And so that has been just something that has always pushed and encouraged me. And I will say, kind of in our 10 years of being married, I've just learned that communication is so essential, and it's key to any relationship, whether that's your spouse, whether that's your best friend, or whether it's the client you're sitting in front of. You have to have some clear communication skills to be able to, advocate for yourself and for the one you're sitting across from. Um,
That's
and
great.
so, yeah, so really it's been very encouraging. And um up until recently, to kind of just share a little bit more on the personal side. My wife and I, we've been married for 10 years, and a lot of people ask you, do you have any kids? And we've tried for a while. It's been about 5 or 6 years, and
Hmm.
we've had some trouble there. And we've gone through something called IVF,
Okay.
or in vitro,
Yep.
which is actually more common than you think, as you kind of talk to people. And this past year alone, we've had 3 miscarriages, man. Um,
Wow.
and it's been a really hard journey, and there's been times where I really ask God why,
Hmm.
and ask him, like, what's the plan here? Our friends are having kids, people are kind of moving on with their lives, and like, what's my purpose? And so I've gotten into that place where I have to um, take the opportunity in front of me, which is right, FFL, and I'll dig into that a little bit, but also come to a resolve that God has something in store for each of us that might go beyond what we understand and
Sure.
what we think.
No doubt.
and I believe that, and that it's easier said than done for most
Yes,
people,
sir.
but I come to a place where there's a resolve, and I have to wake up and trust that every day.
Mm.
Um, and then this year I lost my dad this year to Lou Gehrig's disease, or ALS.
Well, I'm
Uh,
really sorry about your loss.
I appreciate that, man. It's I shared at the New Jersey Sales Conference
Yeah.
a little bit of that story, and it kind of came on very quickly when I say my dad just drove me to the airport for the national convention in February, no
Wow.
problem. It took a really, really quick turn, and he turned 61 in May and ended up passing. And so, um,
Wow.
just to kind of bring us up to the current day, my mom had a life insurance policy on my dad, um, that was sizable. And what I see, what we do, just to kind of come into the fold of what we do here, I see it firsthand, almost as a client. Um, my mom only had to cry once. That makes sense. Um, because the life insurance policy she had on my dad, is changing her life.
Wow.
And it's a powerful, powerful moment to see that, on the receiving end.
Wow.
Uh, and so that has been something that has really kind of emboldened the way I talk about the business that we do. And when I'm
That's
sitting in
strong,
front of a
bro.
client, it's
That's incredibly
it
strong.
it's deeply moving, man. Um,
Wow.
and so, really, it kind of just brings us up to current day, man. I left my corporate job last year. I worked for a telecommunications company, um, for the last 7 years. I was a general manager. So I always was leading people. That's something I'm passionate about. And I kind of got to this place where I couldn't move beyond what the company would allow you to do for people.
Mm.
So when you're advocating for people who want to work hard, who want to provide for their family, and corporate jobs kind of make changes that you can't control, even in a leadership position,
Mm.
um, you get to that point where it wasn't necessarily about the money. It was that I couldn't do any more to be able to provide an opportunity for somebody else. And so I talked to Joanne, Joanne Basso, and we'll just say it was a wrap, right? Um, so I've been licensed in the life insurance industry
Hey,
for
real
almost a
quick,
couple of years.
what was that
Yeah.
pitch from Joanne like? I would love to hear what that pitch was like.
Well, she says so. Joanne, if you know Joanne, if she's always real, and she says, "Yeah, look, dude, it's an opportunity." Right?
Oh
She goes,
God.
she says, "Look, dude, I will tell you, this is an opportunity that if you come and work really hard, you can change your future, right?" And did I hit that on the head? Did
You
I hit that nail
did.
on the head?
You really did.
Yeah, I love it,
That's
man. I
great,
love it.
dude.
So I took that opportunity. I was actually licensed in the industry almost 2 years this September, and a friend that left the telecommunication company, another friend, was kind of with another practice company, and kind of got me intrigued, and I played around with the practice company for a short period of time, and I left the industry a bit because I just really didn't I didn't fit into the model that they were doing business, and I kind of took a step back, and I said, I don't think this is for me, but I hung on to my license. And my wife, actually, she decided to get licensed at the same time because we actually believed enough in what we do. We had policies on ourselves, and it was interesting because we hung on to it. We didn't let the licenses lapse. And lo and behold, God always kind of shows up at the times that you least expect.
Hmm.
Uh, and the opportunity presented itself to kind of jump ship and leave the corporate world, and then bring us into this fold where we're providing for ourselves, we're providing for other people the opportunity to provide for themselves, and then also do something to really change people's lives. And so that's kind of where we kind of land today. And I'll land the plane a little bit there, Mark, and um, just kind of tell you this has been a extremely life-changing series of events in the last 6
Wow.
months.
Yeah. Well, man, wow, what a story. I mean, you said quite a bit. And again, sorry for your, I'll say, losses. Not, but we're obviously talking to a very strong individual, because when I see you, you have your joy. When I see you, your purpose is illuminating. You're, going out there and helping families. You're living. Again, I'm not with you in your dark moments or in your moments of despair, but you're strong, bro. So,
For sure.
kudos to you for being able to endure with your sanity, with your gumption, with your joy to continue to go forth and do the things you're doing, because a lot of people might tap, So kudos to you, man. You're, whether you know it or not, you probably do, but you're setting an example for so many people. And it doesn't show up in 3 months or 6 months all the time, but it shows up in 3 years, 7 years, 10 years. There's the stuff you're doing right now. People are watching you. They're 100% watching you, and they're watching you be strong and live for your wife and live for your family and continue to move forward amidst immense tragedy. So you are very strong, my man. I wanted to just take that moment to say that, and I
Thank you.
appreciate your strength. And then you gave us a lot, So, I mean, you're here through this journey. We all have a story, and I think it's so fascinating. Again, if we were having dinner, I wouldn't have gotten any of this. Maybe I would have got like 20% of this, which is crazy. It's so crazy. But the podcast is set up for that to happen, and it's so fascinating to me every single time I listen to someone's story. So insert family first life. You're here. You're doing great things. I love what you said about being emboldened to share the message of life insurance, because you're watching it play out in front of you by ways of your mother, which has got to be like so moving.
Mm-hmm.
That your dad took care of your family for his worst day, or for your family's worst day, not knowing when that day or hour would be.
Right.
But understanding and seeing it play out for the good for your family financially. Man, that's I mean, basically your whole legacy is life insurance. Like, you have no choice but to put forth the message of the good news of life insurance, and that's a calling. It has to be from your grandfather and your grandmother, passing it down to your father. Like, your father probably had a big policy because was that his parents or your mom's parents?
So that was my mom's parents, but my parents were both entrepreneurs. My dad had a couple businesses,
Makes
and
sense.
they believed in protecting the family.
Yeah.
And I'll say, it's when I mentioned earlier, my mom only had to cry once. It's because obviously we're losing the person here, but she's not crying again in the sense of the things that all follow,
Yeah.
because she
Yeah.
has that policy there.
That's
and
true.
and the other thing, just I have to say, just being a born again believer, man, we're rejoicing at the same time because we
Amen.
know where he's at.
Amen.
And that is something I have to rest in. That's what keeps my joy going. You mentioned joy earlier. That keeps my joy persistent.
Yeah.
So it's been it's totally been an advocate for really my drive for what I'm doing at this point.
Dude, and it makes all the sense in the world. And I mean, I just, knowing the story now, I mean, I heard you say it at the New Jersey Summer Sales Conference. And then we did a podcast a few weeks back. You mentioned it again. It's obviously a major part of your story, and still very close, because the proximity of time was months. It's not like this was 10 years ago. Even still, it being your father, who's a very prominent figure in your life,
Yeah.
So, but to hear it this way, with all the history behind it and all the color, it says a lot about you, my man. It says
I
a lot
appreciate
about
it.
you, and
Yeah.
it's and all good things, because you're gonna do some great things for you and your family, because the only thing that's been modeled for you are great things for the family. So it's amazing to hear and listen to that and know that that's the fruit that's coming forth like a freight train, and it's why you have the momentum you have, in this business. Talk
Mhm.
about, for you, why Family First Life.
Family First Life, man. It has been a game changer in my ability to buy back time. We talk a lot about how well you get paid for what we do. We get paid very well, but for me, it's buying the time, and so when we're putting in this hard work for a short period of time to buy back more time for our family later, it's something that I'm really chasing, because what I've seen, even in just these last 6 months since I started full time with FFL, it's been since January this year. Um, if it wasn't for the transition from my corporate job to this, I wouldn't have had the time to spend with my mom, my dad when he was in the hospital for 11 weeks. Um, I wouldn't have that freedom. Now, if that freedom comes with a cost and a responsibility, to make sure that I'm putting the work in, but it was in the work on my terms. And so that's something that has just truly been revealed to me in such a short amount of time starting this, that we have the ability to control every aspect of our life that way. And it's something that is, too much given is much required.
Right.
We're given this responsibility to manage our time well, to go out, provide for our family, protect families, make money, and be good stewards of that. But we have to manage everything that we have in a way that is only going to be able to give back and support us. And that's a biblical concept of being a good steward of not just our money but our time. And
Amen.
and FFL has given me that opportunity to do both at the same time.
You are very wise, my friend. This has been I've enjoyed this quite a bit. People listening to your story are going to have hope for things that they've been through and see what you're doing. Again, your story is just being written. Like, yeah, there's a past, but you're penning right now what is going to be, and you're on a heck of a trajectory, on a heck of a ride. So, thank you for sharing so much with us, Brad, and I can't wait to get you back on, man.
Yeah. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Well, thank you so much for listening. Your Story Podcast, we bring it to you every single month. This one was amazing. So definitely listen, subscribe, share it, and we appreciate you all listening. Thank you so much. Appreciate you, Brad. God bless.